shows film almost every week? From artist talks, genre-defined performances, and world premieres to archival shorts and experimental soundscapes, the Walker Cinema explores all modes of global and local filmmaking. Get your first tickets for free. Visit walkerart.org/cinema to learn more. That's walkerart.org/cinema. See you at the movies.
When we heal from our traumas,
when we face our fears,
let go of our addictions,
when we relearn our values,
when we live our teachings,
respecting our elders,
cherishing and honoring our children,
when we honor and take care of our spirit,
there will be no room left for sexual violence.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Support comes from the Walker Arts Center, an art space that's more than the spoon and cherry. Galleries celebrate contemporary visual art, including indigenous artists like Edgar Heap of Birds from the Cheyenne and Arapaho nations, and Jim Demeny from the Ojibwe Nation. Additionally, film screens, cinema, and performances are shown on stage. And the Walker is free every Thursday night and free every day for citizens and members of tribal nations. Learn more at walkerart.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, cloudy with a low of 34, then Tuesday, sunshine with a high of 51. Get your exquisite, elegant box of French macarons from Nicolette's Macarons in Plymouth. Nicolette's is conveniently located off Highway 169 and 36th Avenue. Stop in at the store or order your box online at nicolettesmacarons.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hit me cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Geez, we haven't talked to our friend Bob Blake from Red Lake, got to just say that, for a week or so, and it's going to be great. We're going to hang out all show and talk about what's going on, how it affects Indian country. And I also really want to do a segment, Bob, and talk about your work, because we don't talk about what you do enough and how important it is. And then if we feel giddy enough at the end of the show, we can possibly talk sports with Solar Bear and the news and sports. But Bob, great to have you on as always. And we're living in upside down world still.
Yeah, I know, Robert. We just, the United States is in another conflict. This is the Orange one said that he wasn't going to get us in conflicts. He said that he was going to no new wars, I think is what he said. Over, I don't know how many times he said that on the campaign trail. But here we are invading another sovereign nation, and for the foreseeable future, I don't think this is going to end. This. I don't know how this is going to end. It's not going to end very well. And, and of course, I hope he's through threatening Greenland. Right. I hope he's done with that, because, NATO was taking him seriously, and they were putting forces together in Greenland. And I think probably Mark Rubio and them probably were like, hey, listen, maybe we should stop doing that or stop saying that. I don't think we should do that. So I hope someone in there, like, talked some sense into them, which I think they did. And then, of course, there was the invasion of Venezuela. And of course, he made threats to countries in Africa. So the No New Wars president, who said that that's what he was going to do, was not stop no new wars, is getting us into wars.
Robert, it's funny. Mainstream media is failing us. I think the only place that you can really get half baked news is now MSNBC. The MS, we got CBS that's been taken over. Their Fox Jr. And all these other stations are really complicit. So we have like late night show comedians really giving us real news, or Saturday Night Live, and then this latest bombing campaign by the self-styled peace president has prompted a wave of Americans to ask if it's such a noble war, why isn't Trump's youngest son out there joining the draft, Aaron or Barron, whatever the heck his name is, and the owners of South Park have set up a website promoting that fact, and we love those guys.
Yeah, we do like Trey Parker and the South Park crew. Those guys are funny. Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't want any young men and women going to war, but if you want to, equate presidents and their children, in serving in the military, President Biden's son, I believe, was a soldier. And the other thing about this too, Robert, is like this whole concept and this whole idea that this president has of this like imaginary world in which he lives in, that the United States is somehow like just you have to take out a few leaders and that's it. This has been tried before, Robert. Time and time again.
Well, and also President of Israel has been asking U.S. presidents to go at war with Iran for 20 years, and now we got a dumb president that did his bidding for him, and now the whole Mideast is up in flames, and we've lost 6 Americans already. And I feel like I'm having a flashback from the days of the Vietnam War, because it was reported 6 deaths of American soldiers and 500 of theirs. So here we go. We're going to start with that count again that was famously on the nightly news every day during the Vietnam War.
Right. And some of these countries in the Middle East, want, I guess have been having disagreements with Iran too. I believe one of them gave our president a jet, gave him a jet. Promised him to build a golf course and some resort there. Okay. So are we like bartering or trading our army and our young men and women for war, for a jet and a golf course and a hotel, Robert? Is that where this country, is that where this has gone to now?
To answer your question, yes. And I read Trump's current approval rating is 27%, and going along with U.S. illiteracy rate in 2026 is 28%. So is there a coincidence to that?
I think some would call it a correlation, right? It's like, and what's really sad about this is, not that literacy is a laughing, matter, but like, I mean, think about it, Robert. Back in the early 80s, the President Reagan, he cut funding to, education. And, and that's what really started this kind of downward slope, because before that, we as a country put so much money into our education system. And, we knew that education was the way to advance society and to make new things, new inventions, to create entrepreneurs. And it just feels like now you have, this the Republicans sitting there wanting to take away all of this education, the money for dollars for education. And it's really dumbing down the society. And unfortunately, we're seeing the direct result of that, of 70 million people who are having literacy problems, throughout the entire country.
Yeah, and not only that, and we could get deeper in this sometime, but the with Ronnie Reagan becoming president, that was the beginning of the end of the middle class. He started attacking the unions right then and there. And I remember the air traffic controller union he busted, and he just been in 1980 when he was president, 60-some% of Americans were in a union. Now it's down to 20-some%. And so there you go. There you have it. Union busting and all those things, along with education. And I really blame something that's called Fox News out there for really dumbing down a lot of our relatives and people out there. It just amazes me.
And the interesting thing about that, Robert, is during the 80s too, that was the same time Rupert Murdoch, when they got rid of the Truth Doctrine and
Yes.
the media, at the same time that happened, that's when Rupert Murdoch started Fox News. Oh, well, look at what we have now.
Exactly. Hey, we are with our friend Robert Blake, the Solar Bear, with the Solar News and Sports, and we got more to discuss. This is Native Roots Radio, and we're starting out here on a Monday. World War III starting, and we're used to this as Native people. We'll talk about it a little more on the Native perspective. This is Native Roots Radio.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Oh, this is Robert Pilot. For Native relatives, healing is more than just sobriety. It's reclaiming indigenous masculinity as a sacred, balanced force. Join Hunter Thundercloud for Native Roots Radio presents Controlled Fire. We explore how personal recovery uplifts our communities. It's time men step back into roles as mentors and spiritual leaders. Recovery is collective, and it starts with us. Tune in the first and third Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. for Native Roots Radio presents Controlled Fire. Let's tend the fire together. Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Local artist Rosie Simas, Seneca Nation of Indians, Huron Clan, embodies Onondaga philosophies of peacemaking and relationality in new immersive installation. Visit Age Jagwa Destiny Gowaweni. I hope it'll stir your mind and explore a space built for communal rest and contemplation. Simas presents a performance of the same name this May. Learn more about the exhibition and performance at walkerart.org.
Unwanted sexting or photos, inappropriate jokes, even tickling or wrestling can feel like a violation. Catcalling, cornering, or groping, getting them drunk or high for sex, recording sexual acts without permission, hurting someone because of their sexual orientation, raping a family member, a child, a date, a friend, a stranger, purchasing a human being for sex. You make the choice every single time. Sexual violence is many things. Make a choice. Do not do it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
I'm Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and I want to be your next United States Senator, and you are listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is Robert Pilot, and this is Native Roots Radio, and we're with our friend Robert Blake with Solar Bear with Solar News and Sports. it was also reported in the news break that Kuwait shot down a few, shot down a few of our jets, misinterpreted who they were, and there's going to be a lot of folly going on here. I mean, first we're out, shooting down weather balloons and drones now, thinking that Mexico is attacking us last week, and now we have things like this happening. And one of the things, Robert, I don't know how you feel about this, but I try to see what's going on social media, but there's so many AI clips out there that are so fake. You have to look at them about what's happening with the war or what's happening with the Trump Epstein files. It's really hard for just a novice maybe that's scrolling through things to not like and post things that aren't even true now.
Yeah, no, Robert, listen, I want to tell everybody out there, please do not, be careful when consuming social media from online, right? Like, let's be careful about this. Let's be practical about this. I'm not saying that everything out there is bad news, but it's Facebook, it's Fakebook, right? It's so we got to be careful with what we think is through social media. And interesting enough, Robert, this becomes such a thing now that countries, especially in Europe, are now like making it mandatory for children at an early age to start recognizing good information as opposed to bad information on social media. And I think that's something that I think we need to incorporate here in the United States, or at least in our school districts, because that you could get sent down rabbit holes on social media. So everyone, please be careful at what you're consuming out there, putting in your mind. Make sure that it's legible, or resources, good resources. I try to tell people, try to still stick to the old ABC, CBS, NBC. Even that's now being compromised by these billionaires that are buying up the media. But Robert, once again, I'm going to go back to climate change, the environment, and I am going to sit there and I'm going to say someone had a talk with these Republicans or with this administration and said, hey, we're in a very peculiar position right now, and we need to take action. And I'm just saying, I really do believe someone gave these people a talk, and that's why they are going for this power grab, which I believe come November, the American people are going to speak about it, and they're going to show them the door.
Well, let's hope so, and let's keep talking about it, because mainstream media seems to normalize all this. Again, whenever anything's brought up with the Trump Epstein files, we end up having some big catastrophe happen, and this is a latest example. I mean, we had Hillary and Bill Clinton, and then we had legislators out in Washington saying that, well, let's bring in Trump. He's in there 10,000 times, and next thing you know, we're bombing Iran.
Well, incidentally, I'll be at the Clinton Foundation on Monday next week in New York. So a little plug, shameless plug there for Solar Bear. But yeah, Robert, you're so right in that, it's unfortunate, but this guy has been mentioned over 1 million times, Robert, in the Epstein files. I'm sorry, but this guy is guilty. And, for this administration to cover up, the fact that, even if he wasn't even in the room when things were happening, something was happening. And, for them to be covering up that fact is just, it's just unconscionable that this administration is taking the steps that they're taking to by obviously his direction. Even Kristi Noem said that in one of her interviews, where she said, I was doing what Stephen Miller and President Trump was telling me to do, So I'm just saying, like, those two guys are, I tell you, more evil than evil, I think, honestly.
Yeah, well, and you bring up Stephen Miller too, and it's interesting. I don't think because I think I believe Trump's cognitive ness is like, it's not doing well, and he doesn't know what the heck's going on, and he's never really been a real person. So he says that we're going to lose soldiers, and that's just the way it is with this war, and blah blah blah. And it's just we're again, this is billionaires where billionaires want a war, and they're putting young Americans on lives on the line. And we have such a big population of Native Americans that are in the military. Our prayers are out to them.
And I don't know, everyone, if you've ever taken an Uber down Contractors Row in Washington, but the size of those houses, I'm telling you, are very, very big. And that is, defense contractors up and down Washington, D.C. Robert, I'm telling you, what happens is the military industrial complex, the machine gets fed. A lot of these people have a lot of money. And they get it from the federal government for being defense contractors. And so sacrificing, American families and the military, they just feel like it's collateral damage, Robert. And we need people, that are going to be elected like AOC. We need Bernie Sanders. We need folks, good people that are going to run, that aren't going to get persuaded by the money, that are going to be there, that are going to be in love with the people and not the money. I think Martin Luther King had a very good quote on that, but that's exactly what happens out there, Robert.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned those people, and I want to mention the lieutenant governor too. We need her in Washington, really setting things straight. We need our representation, but we also need our progressives really to step up, because it's going to be interesting. I'm hoping that we have a blue wave, but it's going to be interesting to see what Trump does next, because there's talk about martial law during the election, and or you have to re-sign up to vote, and all these things that are on his desk, and he's ready to do so. We have to be awake for that.
So that's what's going to happen, Robert. I mean, sorry, everyone, to break the bubble, but that's exactly what you're saying is going to happen. And so, a lot of what they try to do is create chaos, so we can't see what's behind the scenes. And one of the things, that he's trying to do, and this administration is trying to do, is distract us from the fact that he's going to try and steal this next election, there's a good chance, Robert, he stole the last election. There is going to be there is a 99.5% chance he's going to steal this next one. And Americans have to show up at the polls. They have to be able to get their vote. And ICE is going to be at these polls. They're going to try to intimidate voters. They're going to try and steer them away. His own little private army, they're going to try and steer them away. And we have to show up. There has to be legal observers. We have to be at the poll sites, making sure that individuals are able to come in, cast their vote, and leave like we've had done numerous times, Robert.
Well, and it's funny too. He's such an idiot that they're really messing with mail-in voting, and Republicans are the higher percentage of people that do mail-in voting. So I guess have at it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's the other thing too, right? Like, I mean, I think a lot of folks are just going to show up and be motivated to go vote. Obviously, probably Republicans too, but I also saw that statistic where Republicans are more of a mail-in voter than Democrats. So I guess have at it, Republican Party. But I'm sorry, this guy is destroying your party. He is destroying this country. And for folks like Tom Emmer and the rest of these Michelle Fischbach and Pete Stauber to sit there and defend this guy is just absolutely just unbelievable. And I'm just so sad for those individuals that are in those districts. Let's vote these guys out. Let's put new people in there that are going to represent our interest, and let's get this country back on track.
Yeah, did you see Emmer was on one of the weekend shows, and he was like talking about the Twin Cities is only a dot. Minnesota is mostly red, and he hopes. I mean, give me a break. What is he talking about?
Yeah, no, Tom Emmer is he's a rich boy. You know what I mean? He's just sitting there just like the rest of those Republicans, just kissing this guy, you know what I mean? And kissing the hand. He's not representing Minnesota interest. And, unfortunately, when you start looking at the statistics of the individuals that are going to be losing their health care for the votes that he's taken, we need to vote this clown out, just like the rest of them.
Absolutely. Hey, we're with our friend Bob Blake from Red Lake, Solar Bear with the Solar News and Sports. We still have more to talk about. And then I also want to see what Bob does during the week, because you're all over the country. Like you said, you're going to New York next. I saw you in D.C. Just fun. We'll talk more. This is Native Roots Radio, and we're with Bob Blake. Support comes from the Walker Arts Center, an art space that's more than the spoon and cherry. Galleries celebrate contemporary visual art, including indigenous artists like Edgar Heap of Birds from the Cheyenne and Arapaho nations, and Jim Demeny from the Ojibwe Nation. Additionally, film screens, cinema, and performances are shown on stage. And the Walker is free every Thursday night and free every day for citizens and members of tribal nations. Learn more at walkerart.org.
If the statistics say that 1 in 3 Native women and 1 in 6 Native men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime, it means our whole community is affected by sexual violence. 1 is too many. Don't stand by, stand up. Don't engage in acts of sexual violence, and shut down the dirty jokes, the gossip, the victim blaming and shaming. As a community, we can change the way we respond. Contact the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition to attend a workshop to learn more.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
This is Chase Iron Eyes announcing a new show on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, powered by Native Roots Radio. The show is called Native American Patriot Talk Radio. What will we do on the show? We are going to explore and dive into the source of American constitutional sovereignty, the intersection of Native American and legal issues. Find us the first and third Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. on AM 950.
Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Did you know that the Walker has a cinema that shows film almost every week? From artist talks, genre-defined performances, and world premieres to archival shorts and experimental soundscapes, the Walker Cinema explores all modes of global and local filmmaking. Get your first tickets for free. Visit walkerart.org/cinema to learn more. That's walkerart.org/cinema. See you at the movies.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Local artist Rosie Simas, Seneca Nation of Indians, Huron Clan, embodies Onondaga philosophies of peacemaking and relationality in new immersive installation. Visit Agejagwa Desnigowaweni. I hope it'll stir your mind and explore a space built for communal rest and contemplation. Simas presents a performance of the same name this May. Learn more about the exhibition and performance at walkerart.org.
Greg Bakken here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Mavericks Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, cloudy with a low of 34, then Tuesday, sunshine with a high of 51. Dinosaur World is taking over Children's Theater Company starting tomorrow for an immersive tour where you can feel the roar and even smell their stinky breath. Get ready to face a T-Rex and get sneezed on by a Triceratops at Dinosaur World. Running from March 3rd through April 5th. Get tickets and more info at childrenstheater.org.
AM 950 KTN up, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back, everyone. You guys locally here in the Twin Cities, you heard that Chase Iron Eyes is on tomorrow, right after Native Roots Radio, and just a lot of great things that he has to say, and he has a couple guests on, and it's going to be great. So that's right after Native Roots Radio here in the Twin Cities, AM 950, and the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. Chase Iron Eyes, and of course all the iTunes and Blue Sky and all those things. Chase will be there too. Hey, before I get going here again with our friend Robert Blake from Solar Bear with the Solar News, I just want to say it was Alex Pretty's birthday, 38th birthday today. We want to acknowledge that our relative that was murdered by ICE agents here in Minneapolis, and you are not forgotten, and prayers up again. So here we are, Bob Blake. I saw you were dancing there to that bumper music. Always good to see you dancing.
Yeah, Robert. I want to get to some Solar Bear with the Solar News here. The first story here is the American Electric Power in Ohio is pushing legislation that would allow distribution utilities, so meaning like Xcel, Minnesota Power, right? These utilities, right? That will, and this is in Ohio, everyone, okay? Not Minnesota, but I'm just giving you an example, right? They're pushing this for distribution utilities to own nuclear power plants, okay? Everyone, here's the thing. We do not want distribution utilities to own nuclear power plants everywhere. We will have 3 Mile Island happening in every community. Okay, so I want to put this on everybody's radar. This is happening in Ohio, but we do not want legislation like this passed. Okay, everyone? So just an FYI, a heads up, we want to retire these plants. We want to make the transition to renewables. This is what we want to do. So I'm just letting everybody know this and hear about this story because this is gaining traction in Ohio by these Republican legislators that want to see nuclear power being owned by all these distribution utilities, and I say no. So.
Unbelievable. I mean, just the issues with that. And I know like Prairie Island has that nuclear plant, our relatives down in Prairie Island, Minnesota. What are they doing with all that liquid that they have to cap and put away? And it's just.
And remember this, Robert, there's about like 70,000 gallons of water that is needed to cool that nuclear power plant in Prairie Island. Now, can you imagine if we have a leak and all that water goes down south into the rest of the country? We just like contaminated or like literally, basically messed up the rest of half the country with this nuclear power. So as a headwater state, Robert, we have a responsibility to send down clean water. And I firmly believe that here in Minnesota, And so I think it's important that we take the necessary precautions to make sure that we do everything we can to keep our water safe in Minnesota. And as you know, Minnesota in Dakota is the land of sky blue water. Robert, another story coming out of Lansing, Michigan. Okay, Lansing, Michigan. Residents living near Lansing, Michigan coal plant that closed 3 years ago, everyone. 3 years ago, this coal plant closed 3 years ago, are still living with contaminated groundwater that is linked to coal ash pollution, raising concerns that future protections will be removed by the Trump administration. People, if you want clean water in the future, we have to vote this administration out, because they are not going to do anything about this contaminated water that is poisoning this community in Lansing, Michigan. There was a process that was set together by the Biden administration to take care of this. That got stopped, it got annexed, and here we are now with the Trump administration rolling back all these protections that were put in place by the previous administration for communities like this that were having to deal with contaminated water and this pollution, Robert.
Wow.
So in continuing on with our theme here, Robert, you're starting to see a theme here, right? Happening here. Illinois residents and regulators say they should be on the hook. They shouldn't be on the hook for covering the cost of continuing to operate a large polluting Indiana coal plant that the Trump administration has ordered to stay online. People, are we starting to see a pattern here? This is happening in Illinois and Indiana, everyone. Here's another story. U.S. carbon dioxide emissions from power plants increased 4% from 2024 to 2025 as coal generation surged during President Trump's first year back in office. Everyone, I am letting you all know this administration has been rolling back all the environmental protections that were put in place by the Biden administration to basically protect the environment, and we are going in the wrong direction. Last story here, Robert, I want to just tell you all real quick. Illinois is among U.S. states that are experiencing double-digit increase in electric rates in 2025. Robert, didn't this president say that he was going to decrease everyone's electric bill when he came into office? Didn't he say that he was going to tell everybody you're not going to see double-digit increases in Illinois? Michigan's Democratic Attorney General are pushing against DTE Energy's new rates. This is happening across the board, everyone. Anyways,
our peace president lied to us.
The peace president lied to everybody about electric rates that were going to be going down under his presidency. Robert, I see a theme here. I think this guy's lied a lot about what his promises were.
It's interesting too. His first time around as president, I think there was a recorded 55,000 lies, and I'm sure he's on a roll right now, especially what he's saying about the Trump Epstein files, and also what he did to Obama's nuclear plan with Iran, and now he tore that up so he could wag the dog.
Yep, exactly, Robert. And one more, I just want to point this out real quick. A Michigan Republican state representative in Michigan introduces legislation to stop data center development until 2027. I agree with this. Here's the one thing. You're going to get me to agree with this. We need to take a pause on data center development. We need to be able to get our heads wrapped around this. These things are going to create this artificial intelligence. Robert, you've seen Terminator, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone, all I got to say is, if you've seen Terminator, now you understand what data centers are all about. And I think before we allow them to take over our lives, let's exactly figure out what is going to exactly happen. Is there going to be some type of community benefit agreement? Is there going to be some type of, I don't know, things that are going to help us? Because we just can't allow for these machines just to come in and overtake our lives. I feel Solar Bear feels very, very strongly about this, Robert.
Well, did you see a couple of weeks ago? I think you and I talked about it, where they showed Japan these robots, and these robots were like freakily, really, like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the first Terminator.
Yes, exactly, Robert. That's the truth. These things are becoming more and more humanoids by the day, by the year. I mean, honestly. So I want to just tell everybody out there, let's put a hold up. Let's let some of these, I mean, this is a Republican representative that's even saying this. You know what I mean? Let's hold up on this data center development. Let's see. Let's get some more information on it. I'm not saying, can we space them out? I have no idea. I know not everyone's going to stop looking at their iPad and looking at their iPhone, but can we think of, just before we just have them everywhere and just taking over our lives? Because, Robert, the thing about it is that these things are very energy intensive. And I feel that if you're going to build these things, then you're going to have to build a lot of renewable energy to power them. That is the only way that I think they need to be powered. I don't want nuclear power plants to power them. I don't want coal to power them. And there's got to be some type of community benefits agreement where the community can really benefit out of having these things in their community. Obviously, they're going to pay a lot of taxes. We know this. But I'm just talking about, is there going to be jobs created? Is there going to be opportunities? Can there be funds, set aside to take care of homelessness, take care of, early childhood education? I have no idea. But you kind of see where I'm going with that, Robert.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, we got less than a minute here. One of the things too, all the water, Bob, that these centers, and we've been told since we were little kids that the next war is going to be not about oil, but about water.
Oh, Robert, you are so spot on with that. Everyone out there listening right now, these things are heavily water intensive. And I just don't know if we have the ability to feed the data centers, the machines, and us, because the data centers are going to become self-aware, and they're going to be like, we better not be giving these humans any more water. I'm just saying, I watched Terminator, Robert, one too many times.
Yeah, that's a thing, and it's a scary thing. And part of the reason I'm kind of glad to be 64 years old is I'll be dead in 10 years or less. So, this is scary, but our next 7 generations, Bob.
I'm going to keep you alive, Robert, another 25 years.
You and AI. Oh, hey. This is Bob Blake with the Solar Bear with the Solar News. We're going to take a quick break, and this is Robert Pilot with Native Roots Radio. Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Local artist Rosie Simas, Seneca Nation of Indians, Huron Clan, embodies Onondaga philosophies of peacemaking and relationality in new immersive installation. Visit Agay Jagwa Desnigowaweni. I hope it'll stir your mind and explore a space built for communal rest and contemplation. Seamus presents a performance of the same name this May. Learn more about the exhibition and performance at walkerart.org.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis Air. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis Air dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis Air on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
This is Chase Iron Eyes announcing a new show on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, powered by Native Roots Radio. The show is called Native American Patriot Talk Radio. What will we do on the show? We are going to explore and dive into the source of American constitutional sovereignty, the intersection of Native American and legal issues. Find us the first and third Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. on AM 950.
Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Did you know that the Walker has a cinema that shows film almost every week? From artist talks, genre-defined performances, and world premieres to archival shorts and experimental soundscapes, the Walker Cinema explores all modes of global and local filmmaking. Get your first tickets for free. Visit walkerart.org/cinema to learn more. That's walkerart.org/cinema. See you at the movies.
Hi, it's Dr. Evan Adams, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. Hey, Victor, you better be listening.
In this portion of the show, we'd like to bring awareness to our wolf and bear populations throughout Turtle Island. Say no to the hunts.
Wendy just growled there. Did you hear that for the bear? That was awesome. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio, and we're with Bob Blake from Red Lake. Before we get into we talk the Solar Bear with the Solar News, and then we're going to go into sports. Bob, I'm always curious. You are always busy, and you don't really talk about that, about what you do, but you are on the all over the country, you know, whether it's Washington, D.C., talking about solar and all these other great things. What's your schedule looking like the next 2 weeks?
Ridiculous. I got to go to New York and be at the Clinton Foundation, and then going out to the Economic Summit, the Reservation Economic Summit in Vegas. I got to be in Madison, Wisconsin, at the University of Wisconsin-Madison to do a talk to a bunch of law students. And then I teach at the University of Minnesota, Humphrey School of Public Affairs. And so I'll be doing my class too, coming up here too. So it gets ridiculous. I look back at my week some days. I'm like, how did I do that? But, and Robert, you know what I was thinking about how we could keep you alive is we could like take your head, right? And put that in, like Ted Williams has got his head in like that,
and Walt Disney and Walt Disney.
And we could like continuously do the show, and you would be here though with us. That would be kind of cool. I was thinking.
I would love that. Definitely. But interesting. And I was thinking too, when are you going to New Orleans for Res? When's that?
That is
Vegas.
Vegas. I think that's the 22nd, right? The 22nd or 23rd or something like that. Yeah.
Well, I'll have to go down there with you and be your best boy and carry your luggage.
You took me to the presidential forum in Iowa, and I was was my key grip or what?
Yeah, you're the key grip. Yeah, that's right. And then you gave out all the resist shirts you gave one resist shirt to a person we were resisting and got a picture and everything. Exactly. Now that person's running for governor.
Yeah, exactly. Oh wow. Yeah, that was we were just we were talking to everybody down there. That was a lot of fun though.
Yeah. Well, Res sounds a lot of fun too. I should try and figure out if I can stay with you at a. Absolutely. Well, and then the Twins opener's coming up too. I'll expect an invite to your suite at the Twins opener.
Well, interesting segue, Robert, that you bring this up.
Hey.
And we want to talk about the Solar Bear with sports. Let's get into this because I tell you, there's a lot of interesting things that are happening in Minnesota sports right now. And one of them, Robert, is the fact that, they're talking, the Minnesota Vikings might be parting ways with JJ McCarthy. And I think that is an interesting story that's currently being, that's out there right now. And who do we bring in? And, because I really feel like Sam Darnold winning the Super Bowl this year with the Seattle Seahawks really put a bad taste in Minnesota fans' minds, and obviously they let go the general manager Kwesi Adolfo, and so they're going to be looking for a new GM. There was rumors. They said that Kevin O'Connell, the coach O'Connell, wanted to keep Sam Darnold, and Kwesi didn't want to. So there was that rift or that tiff in the quarterback room. So really interesting stuff coming out of there by the Minnesota Vikings.
Well, also too, the defensive coordinator did not want to return if that GM was still there.
Okay. So if there has to be a decision between Coach Flores and Kwesi, I'm sorry, Kwesi has to go, because there is no way the Minnesota Vikings should ever let go of Coach Flores. I mean, he honestly, if it wasn't for KOC, I'd say put Flores at head coach because honestly, he is that good. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here with the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, the Minnesota Twins are in spring training, Robert. The boys of summer are back. I love my Twins. I know the Twins let me down. Remember that opening scene in Major League when they're talking about the Cleveland baseball team and like all the fans are talking about the team, and that's me. Like every year, like I get all excited. I'm like, hey, this guy and that guy. And then of course the season comes and then I obviously get let down. But I'm really excited about the Minnesota Twins this year. I got hope for every year, Robert. We're going to the World Series, but we got a new coach. We have a new coach. And so I'm really excited to see what happens here with Minnesota. And I think Royce Lewis is going to have a great year. I hope Buxton breaks all the records that have ever been set. And so I'm really hoping for Buxton and Royce Lewis to just come through like champs this year.
Well, it's hitting wins you games, but pitching wins you World Series, and we really need to step it up. It sounds like they've really stocked up the bullpen again, but we lost our number one starter again, and we'll be out the rest of the year. Now who's going to step up? And so it'll be very interesting. Did you watch the Olympics?
I did watch the Olympics, and we had Quinn Hughes from Minnesota Wild. They won the gold medal. We had a lot of folks on the women's team that won the gold medal. So it was the last time the men's hockey team won the gold medal. It was like in 1980.
46 years ago. And then the women, it was 2 Olympics ago. I don't know if you saw Saturday Night Live, but it was pretty funny. They were giving the boys hockey team a hard time because, again, Trump was trying to put something between us all, when he separated them. And I just got to say again, right on to the women's hockey team for not going to DC and being shown off. And I think some of the things that happened with the men's team is they got kind of put in a bad situation, but still good on the women for not going to the White House.
Well, yeah, I mean, and Bill Guerin, right, who is the Wild GM, was kind of the architect of the U.S. men's hockey team this year, and he gets this this FBI director guy, into the locker room where he's drinking like a frat boy. What didn't really what didn't really sit well with me is the fact that we had ICE here that was like terrorizing our communities here. They're still terrorizing our communities, and this guy is a GM of the Minnesota Wild, and just has these jerks, you know what I mean, from this administration like this, especially law enforcement, in there. And I just think it wasn't very respectful of Minnesota, and I hope Bill Guerin does better in the future.
Yeah, hear to that. And that's That's yeah. And then I got to give a shout out to the Lou that won the gold in women's figure skating. Just the joy that came out of her is the joy in sports that we all should have. And she took a couple years off, and she took control of her life. And I hear she's coming back in 4 years at 24.
Minnesota Timberwolves are in 4th place. They had a great game yesterday. Naz Reid played spectacular. But I think we're going to make another run at the championship, Robert. I think they're going to be in the finals again. So that's the Solar Bear with the sports and news.
Right. Can't wait till that courtside invite from the Solar Bear and be sitting down there. But hey, thanks, Bob. Hey, if you're listening to the show, you're part of the resistance. From Chief Plenty Coops, the ground in which we stand on. It's sacred ground. It's the blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, divest, join the group, run for office, and vote. We'll see you tomorrow, Native Roots Radio.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with